Dobar dan svima. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar within the Extreme Clean Twin project. It's the second webinar out of series of 3 that we have planned for the implementation. We're delighted to welcome you all. And when we planned the webinars, we didn't have in mind the COVID and the restrictions on traveling and gathering. And it's actually great that we can host more people than we planned. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you to all the colleagues outside the community of the University of Novi Sad Faculty of Sciences who found the time to join us today. Extreme Clean Twin is actually approaching the mid project, and we are well into the implementation and running towards our first interim report. So this and our future meetings are really important to us, and your attendance and participation is very much welcome. And as we have been doing so far, we will continue sharing the news and inviting a broader community outside the Faculty of Sciences, because your cooperation, participation, feedback really matters to us. We're delighted that our partner in Extreme Clean Twin projects, that we are learning the skills of research supports are our colleagues from the University of Loughborough in the UK. And I'm delighted to say hi to Claire Edwards, Research Development Manager, Adam Wood, Research Contracts Manager, and there will be 2 lovely ladies joining us from Loughborough University. It's Leah Roberts, who is Research Contracts Officer, and Sarah Turner from Academic Training and Development, actually for Center for Academic Practice. And thank you very much. It's really great to have you with us today. I have to say that I'm also delighted with the topic of today's webinar, which is training for academics. Training for academics in the widest possible sense of the word. It's training in research support, it's training in what we call transversal skills, training and strengthening of skills of our academics to do better research. Hand in hand with academics training goes the training for admins who support the research and the research community. And I believe that hand in hand with our researchers, we can produce what is called impactful research. This is why we are really happy to know that a research and enterprise office from Loughborough University has a very powerful research supporting community and skilled colleagues who will be sharing their knowledge today. So we will hear more about the types of training for academics offered at Loughborough University. We will hear what specific trainings are offered, what is planned. And because I believe in this project and what we are doing here, I believe that very soon in the future, Faculty of Sciences and of course, broader University of Novi Sad with all its participating faculties will be able to support the research community in this way and offer versatile, skilled trainings in whatever the needs of the research community are. So again, welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us today. Without much further ado, I would gladly give the floor to Professor Biljana Basarin, who is Extreme Clean Twin Projects Coordinator, to say hi to you and share her own experience as an academic who has been through many trainings and who actually participates in training other researchers to do better and more impactful research. Professor Biljana, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Gaga. This is really nice words from you. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm really glad that we have 32 people attending this webinar. I think this can be really useful for all of us, for the researchers and also for the admin staff that joined us today. What I wanted to say is that without the support from our international relations office and admin staff and the management of our faculty, the Extreme Clean Twin project wouldn't be as successful as it was. And in the beginning when we submitted the proposal. So the support that we receive, the research that we receive from our admin staff is very valuable, because sometimes we as researchers can be really autistic as some things are concerned. For example, how to write an impact, how to communicate our results to people who are not in science or in research. So sometimes it can be really, really hard. And without their guidance, we are left stranded, let's say. So our research cannot have the impact as we would like it to have, or as we desire. So I actually realized that when I started writing the proposal of Extreme Clean Twin, and I thought that maybe one day we can write a project that will actually build the skills of researchers, how to communicate their research, which language to use, which words to use to have better impact on the society, community as a whole, because we do research not for us, but for the society and the community. So maybe in the future we can think about of a new project dealing with this kind of stuff. So the support that we need is actually something that we have to recognize in the future more, and to ask people around us to help us with every kind of obstacle that we can see and have on our path to research and impactful research. So I would just like to say for the researchers who joined us today, it is better to ask for help than to do everything on your own, because then probably you will do something wrong, or you will not see something that is obviously there and you won't emphasize it enough, and then your proposal or your research wouldn't get as much impact as you would like it to have. So this is my opinion. And also I would like to say that this project and collaboration with our partners actually changed me in many ways, as a person, as a researcher, as a lady who would like to know more and ask more. And I'm not afraid to ask anymore. So I'm not afraid if I ask that it would be a stupid question. I don't care if it's stupid. I need an answer. I need help. So please help if you can. So this is something that we need to work on in the future to get better results. So thank you, Gaga. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for helping us know more and work on ourselves to achieve more. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Biljana, for very encouraging and inspiring words. I believe that Faculty of Sciences, University of Novi Sad will recognize the need to expand the office. There are 2 people at the moment, and I think things are looking up, and that we will get there to have a real office of support of at least 3 to 4 or 5 people in the future, so we can offer a wide range of services as well, and offer, as it is stated in the Research and Enterprise Office website, a seamless support to researchers, which means in every segment of research, from planning to implementation, and those fine tuning and fine administration that we can actually offer. Thank you very much, Biljana. I would also like to say that besides the international research, international relations office, which is at the forefront, it's also very important to have this close communication with researchers coming from the departments. One academic that has a very important role in Extreme Clean Twin project and is a member of this Task 1.3 team is Professor Miroslav Vojcic, who is my close colleague and somebody who is in this project with his heart and soul. So Miroslave, would you be kind to share your experience as an academic who has been through extensive training and very much applied valuable experience? The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordana. Well, from my point of view, I can say that training changes you. You're not the same person anymore. So I'm seeing myself at the start when I started to develop the first proposal on my own with colleagues of mine, of course, and it was a really tough job for the researchers. It's like when you write the first paper, when you publish the first manuscript, it takes you a lot of time. It's horrible review you get. So then Gordana got us in contact for some trainings, and also she offered some trainings in-house in our institution, and it helped a lot. So the things you get from those trainings, when you get a system out of your house that offers you such trainings, is first you get a competencies you don't have in writing the proposal. So it's totally different dimensions from our regular work we do, from teaching and writing the research papers and other stuff. So it's totally different competencies you need to write a successful proposal. And it's especially so some, let's say, fields of science have a closer connection to the project management and application development, and others don't. So I know my students, for example, we implemented now the project management course on our MA studies. So it's for geographers. When I get the students from geography, it's totally different field for them. So they don't have any background or experience to that. And also what you get from myself, from my point of view, from those trainings you get on, is that you meet a lot of people. You meet a network through those trainings with different fields of research, and you get another value, another product out of it. What is also important is that we get to know each other through these interactions and trainings. I know for Biljana will probably say that the same thing is that we didn't know each other from different departments of chemistry, physics. So you get to know each other from these trainings, and you get a really interesting and multidisciplinary project proposal out of it. So this is also the added value we get from these trainings. And it's easier. It's easier when you get a training. So you get the know-how, you get a blueprint, how to write a successful proposal. And I will also add to Biljana's words and join and also in celebrating Gordana. I know how she dedicated to her work. She's always available. We call her on the phone, and she's always there to help us. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's tough. She's really straightforward, and sometimes you invest a lot of money in the, a lot of time in the application, and you get a really tough review. So it's not always the easy thing, but at the end you get a successful application. So it's a long road, but it's much easier when you have the system. And I would really like to congratulate Gordana so far for helping myself, Biljana, and I know the other colleagues from the department that they were really, so we had run a national call, and we were really successful in there. And Gordana was preparing every candidate for live interview, the last step for approval of the application. She was going with every applicant, preparing it for that interview where they defended the application. So I know it helps a lot. The training helps a lot, but I think she would need a help. She would need a system, and we will hear from the Loughborough how system works when you have a systematic approach and systematic help at the institution. So I won't take any more of your time. So I would just like to thank Adam and Claire and everybody for our consortium that helps a lot. I would like to thank all the participants who are willing to hear some interesting topics and words. And that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miroslav, for your encouraging words. And yes, as you said, it's the system and not one person. This is not supposed to be a one-man music band. It's a system. It's a system of experts and colleagues who are together in orchestrated effort on behalf of the institution. And this is why I'm happy to have Loughborough University with all the services and dear colleagues who will help us get there one day. So without much further ado, I'm again welcoming Claire to take the floor and just give you some insights into Research and Enterprise Office of the Loughborough University and more on this topic. Claire, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Gaga. That's grand. Apologies in advance, everyone. I've had to switch around the programme a little bit, so bear with me. But I'll just run through what we're going to go over, and hopefully you'll find it very useful. So first, before I speak, my colleague Sarah Turner is going to talk about our Centre for Academic Practice. This is our academic development team that don't specifically work on research, but more broader academic development, so hopefully that'll be interesting for you. And then I'm going to talk about our general Research and Enterprise Office training provision, how we developed it, how it evolved, and what it looks like today. My colleague Adam's going to talk about the informal training and learning on the job that he's done with one of the members of his team in our research office, and how Leah has developed. And Leah's going to talk about her experience of learning on the job, doing the work as she goes. And then I'm going to talk, well, before that, I'm going to talk briefly about what we think we're going to do going forward about training for academics as well. So hopefully that'll be useful. So I'll hand over to Sarah, who's very kindly pulled together a presentation. Sarah, are you able to share your screen?
I will stop sharing my screen so Sarah can join. Sarah, good morning and good afternoon, actually, and thank you for joining us. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for welcoming me this morning. It's lovely to be with you today. So I'm hoping my screen will share. Is that sharing with you?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Wonderful, thank you. But yes, thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, we can see your notes. Do you want to present it?
I'll just pop it onto slideshow. There we are. Is that sharing properly?
All
brilliant.
Good, yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
So thank you, Claire, for the introduction. And I'm just briefly going to talk through, on behalf really of organisational development, what things we do for staff, following on from what Claire's just talked about. Within organisational development, we have sort of 3 different divisions, and we support the whole of the university's staff, from those in professional services to academics, to those who are just teaching or just on research contracts, the whole host of staff within our university. And the 3 different parts of organisational development are a change team, and so they work sort of strategically to develop particular areas of interest. So at the moment, it's been all about dynamic working and putting into policy and practice about how that will go following the pandemic. So that's the change team's work. We have, they're called learning and teaching directors. What might be more commonly known, or what they were known, was staff development. So they work as a whole host of parts of the university and working with workshops for anything to support staff's development, from professional services staff to teaching staff, not specifically sort of Claire's domain of research staff, sort of all the other general side of training that you might have at the university. So for example, induction programs to support staff who are brand new to the university, supporting those who are supporting staff coming into the university. So we have academic advisors, those kinds of roles, to also looking at wellbeing, agenda, and providing different sort of elements of training for those. And then there's our enhanced academic practice team. This is the team that I'm a part of, and we used to be called the Centre for Academic Practice, though we're in a transition change of name, so we're not quite there with a full name yet, so we're still living between 2 names. But within our team, we are made up of a technology support team who are there to support the university and the staff really with teaching, for example, online, for doing with exams. We have a Moodle service called Learn, so they help with that. They also help with anything to do with technology, support staff to be able to use technology in their teaching, and that might overcross into their research as well. My team, I work directly with teaching staff in the main, and they're new academics mainly that I work with. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the work that we do, and I hope that's useful, just as a general introduction about what we do as organisational development. With all of our particular lenses, we are there to enhance the student learning experience. So within the work of the enhanced academic practice team, we're there thinking about our students and being able to make the best experience possible for them. And of course, the last couple of years have made that a very different learning experience from what used to be traditional lectures or seminars, tutorials, labs, practical fieldwork, has been to lots of online learning and of course then blended learning. So that's really shifted, and going forwards it'll be interesting to see sort of what we keep from the pandemic learning and what things we change. But the students are at the heart of all the things that we do with any of the staff, whoever they might be, that come towards us. We have a new lecturer programme, so somebody that comes in on a research, teaching and enterprise contract is someone who's there going to be lecturing there. Their titles are lecturers, and we have new lecturers programmes. It's a 3-year programme to support them getting embedded really into the university and getting into their role. The first year of that 3 years is a probation, just to check that they are settling in and working with the attitudes, values, behaviours that we would expect of colleagues. During these 3 years, they have a probation advisor or an academic advisor, somebody in their school who can work with them and support them and have sort of monthly or sort of termly meetings, depending on the needs of that new academic. Within 2 years on the new lecturer programme, they gain something called Fellowship of the Higher Education Academy. And this is an international award. I don't know if it's known where you are, but it's certainly in the UK, it's known as the sort of teaching recognition more than qualification. It's a recognition that they are able to teach, they can design, deliver, and teach to a good standard and be able to think about the wider role of a teacher, so knows of the quality assurance processes, know a bit about how to use technology to help their teaching, evaluate their teaching, and think about all the different students, their inclusive practice, and whatever's happening in our teaching environment. So gaining the fellowship is what is required of our new lecturers, and that takes generally sort of 2 years if it falls within one of our main programmes. New lecturers are having teaching observations. So for a quality assurance purpose for the university, there are formative teaching observations, and these are undertaken by somebody in the school that the new member of staff is working within. So they pick one of their colleagues, it might be their academic advisor, to be able to watch them teach and to give them some feedback. And we also have summative teaching observations, and these ones are by university assessors. So we have a team within the university, within our team, but also academics within schools as well, who will go in and observe and again check for quality assurance and grade the actual teaching that they observe. So it's a way in which the university is able to check that there's good practice in the classroom. We do have mandatory workshops throughout the new lecturer programme, and these are to make sure that all new lecturers got a grounding in what support is available to them. So this is where Claire and I often liaise and work together, so that her team are there to provide some research and enterprise support, so they know who to go to and when. And from our point of view, some of the general teaching workshops as well, of which we have quite an interesting range. But the main ones that we have that they have to attend are about using your voice. So we have a voice coach that comes in and helps us look after our voices, helps us to breathe when we're teaching, and also to look after our voice, because without it we are stuck in teaching. And also ones about engaging large classes and little tips and tricks when you've got big lecture rooms. As some of our members of staff are teaching sort of 400 students, and so that's quite a lot of students in one room at a time. So they have mandatory workshops. These support the other activities as well. So they support gaining fellowship, they support them gaining 3 high quality publications. And again, that depends on the school and disciplines. They're encouraged to start supervising PhD students, and so building up that, working with others to sort of create that new knowledge. Again, Claire's team help lots with submitting grant proposals and supporting the writing of those, and basically just developing their own portfolio. So these are our new lecturers, and that's what's put in place for them for 3 years in their early years with us at Loughborough. To gain the fellowship, we do run an academic professional apprenticeship course. So if someone as a new lecturer is brand new to teaching, they will come on this 2-year course. And this course itself has 4 different sort of units or modules, and they run for approximately 6 months to help new lecturers learn a bit about teaching and sort of build up their own teaching portfolio, from starting with knowing a bit about assessment and personal tutoring, teaching small groups and large groups, to then building up to more responsible jobs such as being a module leader by the end of the course. With the apprenticeship, I don't know if you're familiar with apprenticeships, but they're quite new for us as an institution. And of course, they're sort of grounded in the government. And so a lot of the requirements come through what the government wanted to do. So for example, there's things like off-the-job training, where a day a week in practice is difficult, but in terms of time, a day per week to be able to learn more about their job. And this is really useful in schools, to be able to learn what else goes on in their school, to think about what else is happening in their schools. Shadow exam boards, for example, shadow learning and teaching committees, work with their academic advisors in any of those aspects of their role to help with their new lecturer programme requirements. So they have off-the-job things. They also have an endpoint assessment, which shows they can teach. They make a video of their teaching, a 1-hour video. They do a written submission. They write about their teaching and get evidence from their practice to show that they can teach, and they have a professional conversation. And this whole 2-year course gives them their FHEA, but also an APA certificate. So that's going to be quite different, and something that we've only embarked on in the last 2 years. For all of our staff, we have a range of just general workshops to support them with their teaching. Claire will talk more about the research ones, but I've already mentioned some of our favourite ones about making the most of your voice and personal tutoring, teaching small groups and large groups. But these are sort of general flavours that we are always offering to our staff, and roll on sort of a 2 or 3 times a year basis, so that staff can enrol and attend. Some of them are online, but some of them are now going back to be in person, so that new academics can learn a bit about what is expected at Loughborough. And from a new lecturer point of view, these are the key workshops. Again, I know Claire's team run most of these, but they're ones that support those new lecturer requirements, such as putting in that grant proposal and developing a publication strategy, understanding a bit about how to supervise and think about how to get their name known for their research, so communicating their research. So there are many workshops as well that support the new lecturers in just getting some general ideas, but also as well coming together as a group of new academics to be able to talk to each other, network themselves, learn from each other and share. And we really try and get that community feel. I think we want it sometimes more than the new lecturers, but that's sort of the aim, to help them be able to do some cross research from one school to another, but also to be able to network and support each other within their roles. If we have really experienced new staff, or old staff for that matter, we do have a continuing professional development scheme, very different, but they all lead to some level of fellowship. So for our new lecturers, it's all about gaining fellowship, but there are different pathways if you are familiar with the UK professional standards framework. We have some that go for an associate fellow. They're commonly our PhD students. And we also have many experienced members of staff that go for senior fellow as well. And the highest level is principal fellow, which we're looking into offering going from next year onwards. So we do have a general scheme, and this is one where people can come along and learn and share together depending on what their experience has been. And so we hope to be quite open with that, so that people can meet their needs as to where they are. I think that's it from me to do the things that we do, and I think I might have slightly run over time, so thank you. And I don't know if you have any time for any questions, or if you have anything at all, but thank you. I hope that gives you a bit of an overview of our team in organisational development, but also a bit about what we support for new lecturers as they come into the institution. And we just really hope the grounding there helps them know all the different flavours of their role.
Sarah, thank you so much for this lovely presentation and for insights into what you do. I think this is so far away from where we are standing at the moment, but it's really impressive to hear that subtle services and very thoughtful and insightful into the real researchers' needs are what we need here as well. And this is one fantastic network of support for researchers. Congratulations for everything that you do, really. I just want to ask you, are you a part of the Research and Enterprise Office, or this a Centre for Academic Practice functions on its own, or are you the one thinking through the trainings and giving them life and shape and everything, or it's a synergy with other colleagues? Thank you.
That's a great question, and it's always a little bit complicated. So yes, I am part of the Centre for Academic Practice. You'll have noticed on my slides we're in a transition to be calling Enhanced Academic Practice, but our team itself falls within Organisational Development. And yes, you're exactly right that we work in partnership. So myself and my line manager within our team, we look at a lot of the teaching provision, and then we would liaise with Claire and her team in the research office to then say, these are what we need as teaching needs for new lecturers. What do you need for your research to help with the research side of things? And so that's why Claire and I know each other a little bit, because Claire comes and teaches a bit on our course, which is fantastic. And ultimately, we've sort of built up that working relationship. So it is in partnership. We do have I know Claire has somebody that monitors and oversees provision, as do I. Within our organisational development, we have people that oversee all of the training, and we do, and we are at the moment tending to change things to meet people's needs, and that's largely been driven by the pandemic and what people's new needs are as opposed to old needs in terms of their teaching. But also, I'm sure going forwards, Claire will be having more discussions about what they need for research as we have a new Vice Chancellor, and there might be a slightly different direction of travel, which is really exciting.
Thank you so much. I'm really impressed, and I believe my colleagues are as well, because the first thing among the first things that you said is that they are teaching new staff to properly breathe and use their voice. And I think this is like too spacey for us now, right, at this very moment. So thank you very much. It's great to know that great practices exist, and we're lucky to have Loughborough University as our partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm sorry I need to jump off, but thank you. Enjoy your time together.
This was brilliant. Thank you for donating your time and volunteering. Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a lovely day.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Claire, are we moving with the program? And
yes, I'll start.
Who's next?
Now. It's me next.
Okay.
Let me just double check that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
This was really impressive. I mean, I'm absolutely stunned. Yeah. Thanks. The floor is yours.
Okay, can you see my slides? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me just start the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, so first
Perfect.
of all, I wanted to talk about the history behind the training program that we provide in the Research and Enterprise Office, because it's only been in existence since 2018. Before that, we didn't really have anything. So what happened was we ran the course that Sarah referred to, which was called Writing Successful Grant Applications. And it used to be run by a senior academic at the university, and it was him sharing his experience and the things that he had done. And in 2017, he decided he'd done enough, he'd done his part, and that he wanted to step back from delivering that course. And he felt that it was in the remit of the research office to take over and deliver it from our experience and the way that we do things. And actually, it was probably a good time for him to do that, because things related to UK funding particularly were changing a lot. His experience was very focused around engineering, which meant that his course wasn't so useful for people that didn't work in engineering or maybe had a more social sciences background. So I was given this course to take over in January 2018, and I delivered this course, and it was great, and it was good feedback, and I developed it and it made it better, and it became a really good course that we ran. So it's 3 hours long, and it focuses on the basics of writing a grant. However, 3 hours is not really very long if you think about how long it takes to learn to write funding applications. So after I ran this course a couple of times, I went and spoke to my manager, because I didn't feel that this course was particularly covering all the things that academics needed in order to be able to go away and write a grant after they'd been on this course. So following that, I met with a group of colleagues, and between us, we thought about all the different elements that make up a grant, and we broke up them into what we called bite-sized training chunks. So they were 1 hour each, and they were looking at very specific parts of the proposal. So for example, one of them was looking at how to turn a research idea into a proposal structure. So thinking about how you can turn an idea into a research question, a set of objectives, and then a set of work packages. Or another one was looking at how you can develop your budget based on what the fund is looking for, tips and tricks on things to include in a budget and all that kind of thing. And we break it down, and it worked well. And then we had the pandemic and we had to really rethink how we were running this program, because we suddenly had to move everything online. And we now have actually moved away from the 1 hour bite-sized chunks, because we've developed a bit since then. And we've actually found it more useful now to run 2 or 3 hour courses, or even full day courses, very dedicated to a specific theme or topic, or a funder, so that academics can attend for a whole day, block out their whole day to attend a course, or half a day, or whatever it might be, really come along and focus on what it is, and then be able to take away what they've learned. So that's kind of the history of where we've got to, and that's how we've developed the programme that we've got today. We do review it periodically, because things do change and things evolve, and the funding landscape continuously changes. So we review it probably every 2 years, check that it's still fit for purpose, have a look at the feedback we're getting, and then make any changes that we need. So that's kind of how it evolved and developed. I think it's really important to go through that journey, because if you don't, you might have a program that's not fit for what you need as an organisation. So you really need to think about what your academics are applying for, and which are the elements that they need more support and development on, in my opinion. Okay, so we pulled together this team to identify the core areas where the training would add value. There is no point us running a course if it doesn't add value for people, or it's just them attending a course. So we really had to think about what are the elements of proposals where people are not scoring too well. I'll pick impact as an example, because that's often something that academics do struggle to think about. So from that, we developed a specific course looking at impact, because we knew it was a topic that needed a bit of investment into. So I'm just going to run through the courses that we do run now, so you can get an idea of them. They might not be right for you, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of the types of things you could run courses on. Just to add, we run them all ourselves. So all the courses are run by my team in the research office. So we each take on 1 or 2 courses that we either run or lead or contribute to. But the other thing we've started doing is involving academic staff as well. So often we'll ask an academic to come along for a 10-minute chunk to talk about their experience of a particular topic. And we found that really useful, because an academic may say things the same as we say, but other academics are more likely sometimes to listen to their professors and their senior colleagues than they would to me, despite the fact we're saying exactly the same things. So I've just actually found that a really useful thing to do. And actually the move online has made that easier, because it's really easy for me to get a professor for 10 minutes to join a Zoom or a Teams call and talk for 10 minutes, or alternatively do a pre-recorded video of 10 minutes that I can then just share in the session. So moving the training online has actually been really beneficial for us, and it's made it much more accessible to people. We also have a campus in London, if you're not aware of that. So it's been quite challenging to get the London academics up to Loughborough to attend some of the courses. So them being online has been really helpful for them as well. So we have a web page where we have all of our courses available. So they're all available there, and everyone can have a look at them and see what they find interesting. And then we have a booking system for training, which is our internal HR system, which everybody across the university uses to book training. So once we understood how that worked, we were able to use that system to upload all our courses on there. And it's really helpful, because we can see who's attended, and they get feedback forms and all the rest of it. So these are the list of courses that we run currently, and I'll run through those in case they're of interest. Now, the caveat I'll put on this is obviously we are a UK-based organisation. The majority of our funding comes from UK funders. So our training programme is very heavily focused on that right now. We are looking at expanding our EU training, but at the moment We've still not officially ratified with the Horizon Europe programme, so we don't really want to waste time until we know that's definitely going ahead. So I will run through each of these. So the first one is about mid to senior career fellowships. So this course is so we have a program in the UK called fellowships. I don't know if you have that in Serbia. And a fellowship is an individual award to an academic for them to do their research with no teaching, no admin, no anything from the university for a set period of time. And they're really competitive, but if you get them, they're great for your academic career because they give you that time to really, really focus on your research. And there are two types of fellowships in the UK. There are ones that are aimed at, established career academics who are maybe already had a few research grants and they want to progress it further, or those that are really early career, but I'll come on to those later. So for every single course, we have agreed learning objectives, and these are the bullet points that you can see on the screen. And we share these with the applicants, with the academics online beforehand, so they can have a look at these and check that the course is fit for them and fit for what they want to get out of it. And again, when we review the programme, we do review these learning objectives as well. We try to run every course at least once a year. Some of them, if we recognise that they're really in demand and a lot of academics want to apply to be on them, we might run them twice a year. The Writing Successful Research Grants course, which Sarah talked about, we actually run that one 4 times a year. We run it twice a year for the academics that are on her new lecturers programme or the apprenticeship, because they have to attend that course. And then we run it twice more for anyone that's missed the sessions that they were supposed to go on, but also open it up to anyone else across the university that wants to attend. We don't limit who can attend to just academics. We're happy for professional services support staff to come along to learn more about things. What we don't encourage is PhD students to come on many of these courses, because our role is focused on career development of academics, not PhD students. That sits under a separate group called our doctoral college, so we don't get involved in that at all. Some courses, though, are suitable for research associates and those that are working on specific projects. So I'll mention those specifically. So this one, we run, it's as you can see, it's about 1.25 hours. And we run a session introducing the different types of fellowships that are available for people at this career level. It's non-discipline specific, so it's open to anyone from any discipline, and it will talk about the different schemes, the things you have to think about when applying for a fellowship, etc., etc. So that if anyone's interested, they've got all the information they need to start looking at opportunities. As I've mentioned previously on previous courses, we are not just a research office, we're a research and enterprise office. So half of our department is focused on partnerships and working with industry. So we run courses linked to that as well, because a big part of Loughborough is our connections with industry and our funding that we bring in from industry as well. So and we also have a group that works on commercialization, so things like licensing, patents, and also setting out spin-out companies as well. So there's a lot of that going on. So we have this course to talk to academics about intellectual property, so that they understand it better, what commercialization processes we have, what options they might have if they've got a really good idea, really good technology that they're looking at developing. And what support's available for them from the university. And we found that this is a really helpful course because a lot of academics weren't actually aware that there was even a commercialization team at the university, and now it's more out there that there is a team and that they can help academics, and it's just really helped that conversation between the two. So that one is run twice a year. We have a specific course on managing a research project. Now, we didn't used to have this course. This came from a request from the academics. They were getting quite stressed, particularly new academics who'd never had a research project before, because they just didn't even know where to start. So now we run this course, and it's been really popular so far. And we look at all the different things that have to happen once you get your grant awarded. So Adam's manager, Tom, he's on the course, so he talks about the finances, the financial support available from the research office for academics. We have a colleague from Human Resources to come along as well. She talks about recruitment, best practice of recruitment, challenges of recruitment for staff on research grants. Adam talks on this course as well, so he talks about the importance of contracts and making sure that you have those set up before the project starts. And I talk about sort of general project management tips and tricks and ways to manage your project effectively. And it's been really helpful to give academics this training, because they go away with a much clearer understanding of, when their grants awarded, the types of things that they need to do. This one, Goga and Miroslav are going to have the delight of attending this course when they come to Loughborough next week. So we have a lot of academics that come to Loughborough from either overseas or haven't applied for research funding before. And for them, they don't know what UK research funding looks like, and it is different in the UK compared to any other country. So we run this course live for anyone that's kind of early career and is interested and wants to learn, but we also have it available as a recording. So if we get a new senior professor who maybe doesn't want to come along to a training course for an hour, we can just send them the link to the recording and they can watch it in their own time, so that they can take from it the information that they need to if they've come from another country. So we run that. This is the other fellowship course that we run, so it's specifically for early career and postdoctoral fellowships. So we would often have research associates, people that are working on grants on fixed term contracts, coming along to this to understand what opportunities there might be for them. It's really great actually, because we have a number of fellowships already at Loughborough, so we'll always invite somebody along who's got one to talk about their experience of applying for it and sharing what they did and how they went about it, which they seem to find very useful. So this one's about collaborators and developing your project team and managing your project team. So we work with partnership development managers from our enterprise office to think about partnerships, who you might want to work with, why you might want to work with them, the types of roles you might need within that project. It's quite a long course and it's complicated, but people find it useful to think about how they need to engage with different types of collaborators in different ways, because it's very, very different working with an academic partner to working with an industrial partner, and it's really helpful to get that difference into people's minds. So UKRI stands for UK Research and Innovation, and this is our main funder in the UK and the main funder for Loughborough. So what happens with UKRI funding applications is it's very, very different from EU. I was really surprised when I found out about it. So what happens is you write a grant application, it gets submitted to the funder sends it out for peer review, so you will have other academics, a bit like EU, reviewing your proposal, providing feedback and giving it a score. Once that's happened, it goes to a panel. And the panel then discuss all this feedback, the different proposals, who's leading them. And what that panel does in that meeting is they rank the proposals together as a team. They rank them all the way down in the order of what they think should be funded. And if you've never been to a panel before, it's really difficult to understand what happens there. So what we actually do is run a mock panel for the academics. So we provide them with some proposals and some feedback, put them into breakout rooms, have a bit of a discussion between them as to which ones I think are good, what's good about them, what's bad about them. And then we get them back together and ask them to rank them in order, so that they can really understand what happens on the other side, so that when they're writing their grants, they can think about it from that other perspective of the reviewer. So they're not just thinking about it from the applicant's perspective. And it's been quite helpful so far, just to give people a different perspective. Then we also have how to write the proposals for this particular funder, because it is the main funder that we go for. And we've split this down into science and engineering disciplines and arts and humanities and social science disciplines, because the way you write proposals for these different disciplines is quite different. So we talk about budgets, all the different components that make up a bid, the different schemes that those particular funders offer, and what they look for and how the proposals are assessed. So it is kind of a full day course, but we've broken it down because we're now online. What we've done is we've pre-recorded some elements of it that we expect them to watch in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we have a live interactive session where they can ask more questions. So the parts that are more sharing information, giving information to people, we run as pre-recorded videos. And then the bits that need a bit more interaction or where people are asking more questions, we run as live sessions. So we have that for the social sciences, arts and humanities as well. Exactly the same course, but obviously a slightly different focus because the focus of the proposals is different. We also have business-led funding applications. So thinking about EU, the ones that are led by SMEs, for example, and it's a very different structure in the UK as to how you apply for business-led funding as well. So, and a very different approach than applying for the pure research funding. So we have a specific course looking at that. I've mentioned the peer review and, oh, I forgot this part actually. So after you get your peer review comments back, so a bit like your ESR on an EU grant, you get an opportunity to reply to those and say if they're wrong, which is really nice, I think. So you get an opportunity to rebut some of the comments that are not helpful or are wrong. You also get an opportunity to provide a little bit more information as well if somebody questions something about your proposal, and that response goes to the panel. So we have a specific session looking at how you write that response to the reviewer's comments. You usually get about 2 pages of A4, sometimes a bit more, so it's quite a skill because you normally get a week to reply as well, so it's quite a tight turnaround. So we run this course specifically for academics to understand how they can do this effectively, because it is quite challenging. And then finally, after my whistle stop talk, we also have a number of bespoke courses. So we have these on offer, but we were finding not many people were coming on them. So what we do is we have a list, and so we have 9 different schools at Loughborough that are all different disciplines and subject areas. And if they are interested in any of these topics, they can contact us in the research office and we can put on a bespoke course specifically for them. And the reason we do this is, so I'll pick an example, finding the best place to publish your research. That's going to be very, very different for somebody who works in physics to somebody who works on climate change. So actually it's better for us to do them on a more bespoke focus level than trying to do the same course for everybody. So we have these available, and the schools can just get in touch with us if they'd like to run one of these for their school, and then we put it on for them. We also have a coaching, mentoring and buddying framework at Loughborough, which I have a video for, which hopefully the sound will share. Let's see if it works. Oh, it's going to do that in YouTube. Let's see if this works. If it doesn't work, I'll share the link with you afterwards and you can see. I don't think that's going to work. I think my internet's too slow. Yeah. Okay, what I'll do, I'll share the link for that afterwards, and if you want to have a look at it, you can do. So what we have is we team up academics and professional services with coaches or buddies or mentors, depending on what it is they want to do. And it's run by our Organisational Development team, which is where Sarah sits. And so if somebody's particularly interested in doing something, they can ask for a coach or a mentor and work with that person on whatever problem or topic or challenges they're facing. So I just wanted to mention that. I can share the web page for that as well afterwards. So that's pretty much me. There are hopefully some hints and tips on how we've done things so far, and I will stop sharing. And if anyone's got any questions about that, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Claire, for this great presentation and such great insights into what Loughborough University offers. It's really impressive. I mean, it's really great to know how well thought out your courses are and your services are. I mean, I believe that anyone in Loughborough University can find something which is of value for their own research. And I really like the personalized approach as well, and your bespoke courses, really brilliant. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I mean, I will use the opportunity before you ask questions or pass your comments. Dear colleagues, please speak up. We can use the time to just share ideas on as we go, and you can use the chat as well. Claire, I would kindly ask you to provide us with the presentations and all the links, because we will follow up with everything on our website. And for the colleagues who can stay all day and who cannot follow it through, everything will be uploaded on our website, the presentations and this recording as well. So we can share everything with you, and you can help yourself anytime after this webinar is over. Please, any comments, any ideas, any thoughts?
I just want to say that I'm really impressed.
I know.
I'm speechless at the moment. Thank you for this nice presentation.
That's okay. If you guys get to a point where you want to start thinking about what training you can offer, I'm more than happy to talk it through. I went through the process of designing that by myself with a team. So I've been there, I've done it. So I'm more than happy to chat things through with you, or if you have ideas of what you want to do.
That's brilliant.
Training is hard. Training is really hard, and it's really tiring. But I found a real love for it, and I've learned a lot about ways to do it and ways to engage your audience, and not just stand and talk at people for 3 hours. You know, really involving them in the process so they really learn from it rather than just watching a presentation. You know.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you invest a lot of time into promoting this offer. And I'm wondering about the feedback that you get from the community. Do the colleagues attend the courses? Would they like to have more frequently, or it's enough to have a course per year? Because if for the colleagues who didn't know, there's an entire academic calendar of these courses as well. So you do follow some timeline. So what's your thought?
We do get feedback, so we ask for feedback after every course. We don't usually get very much feedback from people. If there is clearly a real demand for a course, we will put it on more than once. Or if a school gets in touch with us and says our academics haven't been able to go to your course because of whatever reason, then we would consider putting it on again. But what we won't do is run it for less than, I'm going to say 7 or 8 people, because it's time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
We've now got all of our materials, so it's less time consuming than it was, but it's still a big chunk of time spent training those people. And in some cases, if people can't attend, some of the courses we do record, so we give them the link to watch it afterwards. So there's different ways you can do it.
Yeah, thank you. Miroslav, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Goga. I will join with my colleagues. I'm also impressed how much training you offer to your researchers and to your institution. And I think that this would be my question. So the curriculum, you have a bunch of trainings. So from where to start? What are the most, let's say, beneficial or most attended, or the best feedback you get, or the best impact it has on the institution and the research society? So from where to start? So if we look at all of those trainings, it's
yeah, okay. So really think about who will deliver the training is the first thing, because I don't deliver it all myself. We have a whole team and we do a little bit each, and I pick the people that have the right expertise to deliver that training. So if we're thinking about publishing, I don't really know very much about publishing, but one of my colleagues is an expert on it, so she's the right person to do that course and wants to do it. So really think about spreading the load rather than one person trying to do everything is my first recommendation. And start small. So I started with a 3-hour course on how to write a proposal. And in my 3 hours, I did an hour on the sections of a proposal and what to include in them, the processes that we have internally about applying, and budget development. And that's all I covered in my first course. And it was still pretty substantial, and people, you know, there was a lot of material and people learned a lot. But I started with that, and it was after that that I went, okay, now we need to do a bit more about this topic, and now we need to add a bit more on this topic. So I'd really recommend start small with a maybe a half a day on a more general topic that's still useful for people, and then get the feedback, see what you think after you've run it. Ask people, ask your academics what they want. So when we ask for feedback on our courses, one of our questions is, what other courses do you think would be useful for you in your development as an academic? We've not had anything yet, but really get that feedback, and from the management within your faculties as well. So what do they want to see? What do they think would be useful for their staff? That's probably where I would start, rather than feeling like you have to have 20 courses running, and keep it small. Like our list was double that last year, and we realized it was too much. So that's why we've condensed it and had longer courses that include more material than trying to have 20 bite-sized chunk courses that people can't do. Does that make sense?
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I'm afraid when you become popular, and then you will need to deliver more trainings, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah, but also be pragmatic. You know, if you've got a small team, you can't do that much training. You can maybe deliver one course every 3 or 4 months, and that's for 4 courses a year maybe. So don't try and do too much, because it eats into all the other things that you have to do. Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps, definitely.
Thank you, Miroslav and Claire. And we have a question from our colleague from the Faculty of Technology. It's Vanya Katic. Vanya, please be kind to share your thoughts. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I would just like to ask you, how many of your colleagues are there in your department, and how many researchers or the teachers you have in the institutions, so to get some sense of the scaling?
Okay, yeah. So in the Research and Enterprise Office, we have about 80 people, but not all those people would be involved in delivering training. I would say maybe 20 people are involved in delivering training, and they might be involved in only 1 or 2 courses. Academic wise, I believe if we take out research associates, I think we have around 900 academics. So professors, lecturers, senior lecturers and readers. Yeah, that's probably the numbers that we have. But a lot of people that come on the courses are research associates that are on temporary contracts and want to develop themselves, and we would always let them come on any course. Does that answer your question?
Great. I just want to add one thing that Claire, you and Adam know, but Leah doesn't know, and Sarah is not here. University of Novi Sad is not a fully integrated university. So each faculty is a separate legal entity, which does make our life harder when it comes to these fine services that we could provide. So if we were a team of 20, 30 people, so all the faculty research offices together offering this unique service, that would be brilliant. But this is not the case. So the faculties are differently developed in their own right, and we do things on our own. Some faculties are more accelerating in this area. Some faculties are on the keeping a low profile scale. So it's very, very different, and hopefully we are going towards integration, which would greatly help develop these services. Yeah.
I even think though, before you go towards integration, it's still worth trying to work together to some extent, because everyone's got different expertise and experience that they can add. So sometimes if you give something to somebody else, they'll give you some of their time back. So that's my experience.
Absolutely. This is why we're really happy that Extreme Clean Twin project has this spillover effect. I mean, it is the Faculty of Sciences, of course, but we're trying to reach out to other colleagues from other faculties, and we have invited so many of our colleagues, not only from the University of Novi Sad, but also from other universities in Serbia, Belgrade and Kragujevac as well. So we're trying to get as many people and colleagues on board as possible. This is the mutual effort. This is the joint goal that we have here. Yeah. Yeah.
Would it be a good time to stop for a coffee break before Adam presents? With that, everyone probably needs a bit of a stretch after an hour sat down.
That would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. It's past 5 minutes past 12.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Back in 15 minutes, is that okay?
That would be perfect.
So
Is that all right, Adam?
Thank you so much.
That's fine.
Perfect. So we will come back at 2020. So have a nice break and see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
soon.
Perfect. Yes, program. And our colleague Adam Wood, who is the research contracts manager at Loughborough University, is taking over to say something about case study of contracts. So Adam, I'm stopping to share my screen and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Goga. I'll just see if it will share my screen. So just bear with me a moment.
No problem.
So
Perfect.
that's showing now, is it? Okay.
Great.
So what I'm here to talk to you today about is just a sort of real life case study when we recruited a research contract officer into the team. You'll also be hearing from Leah, who was the successful person shortly. But just to give you a little bit of background, so I actually set up what was supposed to be the research contracts team in April 2020, but unfortunately that was right at the start of the pandemic. So the research contract team was effectively myself, and then we had some temporary resource supporting us here and there. Whereas we'd initially forecasted we'd need a team of 3, that being 2 research contract managers and a research contract officer. So we managed to get the recruitment freeze lifted, and we released one of the posts in November 2020. And then we started to look to recruit the research contract officer role, and that fell under my area of responsibility. So I think although we're talking about training, I think one of the key things with this exercise was the actual recruitment process itself, because this was a new role that we had never had before. So I had to write the job description, the person specification. So obviously there's not an off-the-shelf training package like you might have for an established role in a larger company. So I started off by thinking, what skills did I need and what sort of environment would they have come from? So I anticipated we'd get people applying from a legal background, from other higher education institutes, and potentially private sector backgrounds. So the questions that I used to recruit were to bring out from the candidate, you know, so how much attention to detail did they have, how productively they could work, and also some other things as well, which were crafted by the pandemic. You know, they needed the ability to work on their own initiative, because we wouldn't be sat next to each other every day. The other thing I'd say at this point is it was absolutely vital that this exercise was successful. At the time, we had about 205 contracts outstanding that the team were processing, and that was only going upwards. So we had to get certainly that productivity into the role. I formed an interview panel and with 2 colleagues, we discussed at length what we were looking for. I didn't want somebody to be looking more for one thing and then others looking, you know, so we had a split decision or anything like that. And I also prioritized skills and values over previous experience. So Leah had got very limited experience in contracts, but it was the can-do approach, the willingness to learn that I actually prioritized over other candidates who on paper might have slotted into that role. better. And when I offered Leah the role, I had an honest discussion with her about the role, the prospects of the role. So it was important that she knew what she was getting into, and could obviously flag any issues at that point. Because I think the key point here is, if the recruitment led to an unsuitable individual being in the post, it's a lot of work for the manager. You've got to go through various performance management exercises, and there'll be bad feelings down the line. So when Leah started work with us, we were under government advice to work from home if possible. And I deemed that not to be a possibility, at least initially. There had to be that face-to-face interaction. So initially we spent 100% of our time in the office. Some other colleagues were going in for a day or maybe 2 days a week, but Leah and I were in there 100% of the time. And then a lot of this is about, as I said, there's no off-the-shelf training package, but I reflected back to when I first joined the university that I worked at previously, and I wasn't from a higher education background, so I'd previously worked in contact centres. So I had to put in a lot of thought about what Leah would need to know. So the company structure, the key personnel, what roles everybody did, because prior to this, she wouldn't know that, you know, Claire was not only a research development manager, but what a research development manager actually did. So there had to be quite a lot of input. And as I put there, it was a mixture of at the desk training, but we also found it very useful to, we have meeting rooms at Loughborough with large screens in there, so we could work interactively. The pair of us put a contract up on the screen and talk it through. Like many roles, there's some mandatory training modules, which fire safety, health and safety, all these type of things. So it was balancing out those which can be viewed to be a little bit boring with the sort of interactive training that we were doing. And as I put there, we started off with some simple tasks. I think you can feel very lost when you first start a new role. So it allowed Leah to own some of her own work, but I had to be very careful. As I said, we had 205 contracts outstanding. I couldn't put Leah under too much pressure from the word go. So we met frequently. I've put there, I certainly found it better to be crystal clear with Leah about my expectations of the role and of what she would deliver. And as I said, previously I worked in contact centres where most of the feedback would be along negative lines. So I had to certainly give appropriate praise when Leah did well. And also if there were any errors, to highlight those in a positive manner. We used it very much as a learning curve, and there was nothing, because we had quality checks in place, there was nothing that could have impacted the university negatively at the end of the day. And I think the key thing as well is every individual is different. So asking Leah for feedback. So is the pace that I was delivering training, was it appropriate? Was the content appropriate? Was I overloading her, etc.? So we had those quite honest discussions there. As I move forward, we continued with 100% office attendance, and then gradually we increased the exposure that Leah had to the various types of contracts. So some of the contracts that we have that are considered to be easier, so for example material transfer agreements, non-disclosure agreements, we started off with, and then we moved to collaboration agreements. And Leah kept a note of any queries she had, and we used to cover those in daily meetings. And I think when I sold the role to Leah, I say sold it, I highlighted the positives, and one of those was to effectively support Leah by allowing her to work shadow me with some of the complicated queries, some of the negotiations we did with various external bodies, just in order that Leah wouldn't be effectively trapped in the role forever. And there was that, even though this was only week 2, it's kind of, there was that progression route there in the future, should she choose to go down that route. And it became more interactive, so more moving away from a telling approach to actually having a more of a discussion about things rather than just telling them. We then continued on, and we had to obviously at some point move away from the office because the government regulations were still in effect. So we moved to a blended approach. Now we do 2 days in the office usually each week, so that left 60% of the time for home working. But we still had to arrange sometimes face-to-face when we're on campus, but those meetings for Leah to network and to become aware of other functions within the business, so finance and project managers, school administration, so those key contacts that enables you to be a success in this type of role. And we also had regular meetings with some of the more senior members of the team. So our head of research development, we meet with her twice a week, and any contracts that we're struggling with, we discuss them. We've exposed Leah now to the full range of contracts that we do, and we also moved to Leah taking on some of those cases, but continually with that support from myself, or if I'm not here, then the other research contract manager could step in to help. And she's got an ownership of her own caseload now, and she's becoming more involved in projects and process improvement, which she's been very successful with. And I think that 6 months we have, I think previously some of the academic probationary period is longer, but within the research office we have a 6-month timescale for individuals to pass that probationary, which I'm pleased to say Leah has done with glowing feedback, not only from myself, but from other staff around the organisation. And I think the other thing to consider is we've tried to avoid it's always been done this way. So some of the things we've worked on have been quite innovative, and delivered that efficiency as much as we can. So I've just put the key points for meetings. Leah now meets with all levels of the business. We look increasingly towards her development. So where does she want to end up if a role at my level becomes available? How do we get those skills there to allow her to apply? And I think the final point is we interact as equals generally. So I think that's very important in an adult working environment. So just as a bit of a summary here, I think I would highlight that initial recruitment process, the importance of it. As I've said, we couldn't have a failed exercise here. It just wasn't an option. And then whilst we have rigid training plans, I think we need to be flexible. We need to review what documents we have. So although we've not got a off-the-shelf training package, we have process guides we use for people who join the team to follow. And I think the final thing is it's just an opportunity in the probationary period for not only myself to consider whether the candidate's suitable, but also for them to consider whether it's a role they want to continue in. But whilst, and this is the final point of my presentation, whilst it does take a lot of time, so it certainly impacts on my time, I very much view it as an investment in the future of the team, and it's worth every minute that we have to put into this training and development. So I think that is the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take those. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now, though.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Adam. And yes, I have a question. How often do you open positions for colleagues, and are you happy with the number of people working with you on the contracts? Do you need more?
I think, I mean, if I go back to where I said that we initially thought that there was a requirement for 3 members of the team. I think the team will expand in the future as we still have a large outstanding number. But when we initially did the planning, there were no statistics in place to say how many contracts we had coming in, how many we were processing, and who was working on them. So we'll be able to have a look at this when you actually visit us, Goga. But the first thing I did was to actually set up a recording system, so we have some numbers to back up any business case if we do need to recruit some additional members of staff. So at the moment we have a temporary member of staff who will be with us until probably August, but I think it's thinking ahead at this stage, what's going to happen when they leave, what impact is that going to have on numbers. So I think we'll probably open up an opportunity, or hopefully a couple of opportunities when we get down the line a little way, but opportunities within the team they don't come around every day. I think we've recruited two full-time members of staff and then one temporary member of staff since 2020.
Is it a common practice for you to engage people, let's say, on the project when you have the enlarged workload? Can you approach your, I don't know, management and ask, could we hire somebody from the overheads or something like that, just to that you propose how to approach the workload and share it?
We can always ask for resource. It's no secret to our management team that the team at present are under-resourced, and we can also predict where we're going to be if nothing is done. So it's certainly, going back to those numbers, it's a powerful argument. We have managed to get some staff who are funded out of the overheads on some of our projects. So some of the larger government funded projects, we have resource that's effectively outside the team to do some of the more simple contracts for those projects. But it's very tricky to, especially with, where we are in the pandemic, and there's always people are always looking at money and finances. So it's very tricky to get any permanent posts signed off, but we certainly encourage, and Claire would be part of this, but when we're applying for a large project, then instead of just thinking, well, Adam's team will deal with that, maybe building in that resource into the initial project costings, So that, you know, it doesn't just, there's only so much that my team can absorb effectively. So when we get to a certain point, we can't take any more work on. So that's why we're quite clear about building it in if there's a high workload that's going to be associated with that project.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the insight, because it's not a common practice to hire people when the workload is growing, and there's clearly a need to cover that place and fill out the void. But I hope that this will change at Serbian universities. So these positions do not have to be permanent; they can be for the job and for the needs. Yeah, hopefully we get there and recognize the need.
I think one thing I would say, Goga, is we, along the way, along the path, we've used what we call temporary locums. So I think the other thing that recording outputs and statistics shows is sometimes if you do have somebody for a 4-month period, for example, it can actually almost be counterproductive, because I have to invest all that time in training and getting them to where they need to be. So, and then due to the nature of temporary work, by the time they are there, then they might be looking for the next opportunity. So I think when we've got projects where we can employ somebody for 3, 4, 5 years on, then that really does pay back. But some of the very short-term positions can have not a negative effect, but it can have a limited effect on the issue.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely agree. Thank you so much. Any comments, questions, thoughts on this very, very important issue? Because, yeah, I guess we would all be really happy if we had the opportunity to choose the people and have all the aspects of the requirements actually fulfilled. So you know who's coming to help you. Any ideas, thoughts, questions, comments? Well, okay. If not, I think we can move on, which is actually to hear Leah Roberts. And your name has been mentioned so many times in Adam's presentation. So we're happy to hear you and the actual experience that you had. So thank you for joining us, and please
yes, thank you.
Share your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think he's right. So because I haven't come from higher education background or any legal training background, I used to work with Dickens, so very, very different. But it was obviously a massive opportunity to be employed, and I think the way that Adam has trained me has meant that over the last 10 months of being employed, I've sort of gone up. So I've managed to understand more about contracts, about research and enterprise, especially in Loughborough University. So having that positive engagement with Adam and having all the training has really helped me, especially as Adam mentioned, we were on campus for the first 2 weeks. So I think without that, that might have been quite difficult. But with that, we were able to go through things on the screen together. We were able to go through any points that I maybe didn't understand. So I found that really helpful. And without that, I think I would have definitely struggled and thought, I'm not sure about this. So that was definitely worth it. And it's been nice to meet other members of the team and definitely understand the university as a whole and what everyone was in the research team. So meeting people like Claire, meeting other members of the team and being involved with senior management as well. So we do have regular meetings with them just to bounce ideas off, and I think that was really helpful as well, to, even though the first few weeks I maybe didn't understand the entire conversation that everybody was having, it was good to learn from it and then a couple of months down the line, I was then asking the right questions about the right points in contracts, really. So that's been really good, and it's been really nice to have my own caseload now. So I feel like even though me and Adam still meet, like say, every week, we're in the office twice a week usually, and we'll still go and have those meetings together on screen. I think it's nice to have like my own caseload, so then I can interact with the academics, I can interact with the external companies who are providing the funding, and it's just being part of the team, really. It's not just somebody who does one thing, it's getting involved in a lot of different cases, different types of contracts, and then being part of the more complex cases. So very often now Adam will be on a complex case and I'll sort of still shadow him or be involved in it. So it's just learning from that, really, and then being able to work professionally and personally in the team, to obviously help the overall research team, really.
Geiger, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I told the whole story. Thank you so much for such a lovely and honest insight into your experience with joining the office, which is very, very important one at the university, definitely. I wanted to ask actually all of you, are you the ones to share the opportunities for professional development to the research community? Does it go through your mailboxes, or are you somewhere in this chain of communication towards the research community? It's a question for Adam, Claire, and Leah as well.
So it's actually something we really struggle with, communication to the academics. So far, every school, there are 9 schools at Loughborough, has an associate dean for research, and their job is to promote research activity within the school and support it. So currently, we send the training opportunities to them. Mm-hmm. We also have them available on our website. That's currently all we do. It's not straightforward to communicate and promote these things widely. Everybody at Loughborough gets, I don't know about how it is at Novi Sad, but everybody at Loughborough gets insane amounts of emails. Like, I can't even explain to you how many emails we get. And so emails to academics generally get put away to look at later and never looked at again. So it's quite challenging to promote these things. What we do is encourage people to come on the courses when we talk to them, when we have conversations with them about other things. But it's a challenge, and it's something we haven't even quite figured out. So we run all this great stuff, but we haven't figured out the best way to communicate it to academics yet.
Yeah. All right. And when it comes to your own training, are you supported and encouraged, and do you often find the opportunity for yourself? Because I think it's equally important as the training for academics, as parts of continuous professional development.
So Adam will probably have a different view of this than me, but it depends where you're at in the organisation. So there are a lot of internal training courses available for staff on all sorts of topics. For example, I think we're all going to one next month on how to be a great team member, for example, and we get, we get to go on these things. There's a great new scheme, which is the Loughborough Management Programme. So anybody that manages anybody is encouraged to go on this programme, and it's a programme of courses that runs over a year roughly, and you do maybe a course a month for a year on different topics, like general work topics like disciplinary and grievance, or how to manage people, or how to manage different types of personality. But you do get to a point where you have done all the training at the university. I've been there nearly 6 years now, and it becomes more challenging. I was really lucky. I was given an opportunity to do an MBA through the university. So I'm now halfway through my MBA. That's part funded by the university, part funded as an apprenticeship, which is the thing that Sarah talked about. And I'm being given work time to work on that. So I'm very, very lucky to be in that situation. But I do know that's not necessarily the case for everyone. There's only 5 people from the whole university that get put on it, maybe every year. So it's not available for lots of people. So I'm quite happy right now with my professional development, but I do know it's not the same for everyone. So Adam can maybe add something from his perspective.
Yeah, I think as Claire said, there are courses available, but it depends what stage of your career you're at, I think, whether those are particularly appropriate. We also have what we call a PDR system at Loughborough, which is your personal development review. So an annual appraisal type exercise. And you can request training in those, which I have actually done this year. So I've requested to go on some training, for example, intellectual property, contract negotiation, and some of the contract law, and those are held by an external company who I've been trained by before. I did a Prince 2 foundation and practitioner, so that's a project management qualification that I did. So I've asked to do those. Whether I'm successful, it's kind of watch this space, because especially where there's costs involved, which there are undoubtedly with external training, it could be that it doesn't happen immediately, or it could be that it doesn't happen at all. So
I will add something though. So all of us in the research office are members of something called ARMA, which is the Association of Research Managers and Administrators, which is an association that's for UK research professionals. There's also European ARMA, EARMA, which you might be members of as well. Yeah. So we are really lucky in that the university pays for us to have membership of ARMA, and that gives us access to dedicated courses that are more relevant to us and our specific jobs that we do. However, in the same sort of way, once you've been around the block a few times and you've been in the job for 5 or more years, that again you get to a point where you've done them all, or there are limited numbers that are available for you. But however, ARMA have recognized this, and they are looking at creating more material, more courses, more not necessarily courses, but like workshop type events, so learning from each other rather than being told how to do things for that particular group, and that seems to be going quite well. So we do have that as well, so yeah, we all have access for that. So yeah,
thank you, thanks a lot.
Shall I do my last couple of slides, or is there a question?
Please, yes. There's a comment, and we will leave it for the very ending of the session. But yes, Claire, please do continue with the slides. Yeah,
and then we can finish up and ask any questions.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen again. Okay, can we see this okay?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I just want, this won't take me very long. I just want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do going forwards, because as I mentioned earlier, it's not a standing picture. Funding changes, what funders require changes. The EU maybe moves quite slowly on their 7-year programme framework, but even then there are really big differences in the Horizon Europe proposals than what there were in Horizon 2020, particularly around impact, I think. So there are changes that do come. So one of the things we try and do, as I mentioned earlier, is continue to adapt and develop the programme as things change, as funders change. A really good example of that is in 2017, I think it was, a new funding scheme was launched by UK funders called the Global Challenges Research Fund, and it was about researching with developing countries. And it was really complicated because we had to check who we were working with, undertake due diligence checks on our partners if we were sending them funding. The research was complicated because it was trying to meet global challenges, things like flooding and whatever other problems the developing countries had that we were working with. And it was really complicated. And the whole sector spent a really long time putting processes in place, teaching people how to write these bids, getting funding. And now that funding's gone, and no one knows what it's going to look like going forward. And it's really difficult sometimes to keep on top of these changes, but you have to keep an eye on them, because you have to make sure your training keeps up to speed with what the developments are. There might be political developments or whatever it might be, and you just have to make sure you keep on top of that. So we don't now train on how to write a project for Global Challenges Research Fund, because it's not there and you can't apply for it anymore. But there will be a new scheme at some point that's launched that covers something similar. So we just have to really keep an eye on that and be able to adapt what we do as things evolve. We are definitely going to have a bigger focus on EU funding. Loughborough doesn't have a lot of EU projects, and we don't, maybe 20, I think, and we don't have that many that we lead on. However, it is recognised, particularly the other funding I mentioned has gone away. We have to diversify sometimes. So there is a plan to support more on EU funding. Working more together with our Centre for Academic Practice, so colleagues like Sarah, and also our doctoral college, who provides support for PhD students, to really use our skills and expertise in the best way. All of us know about different things in different ways, and sometimes bringing those together can create really good training opportunities and really good experience sharing for our academic colleagues. So trying to work together a bit more and have a bit more of a brought together cross-functional approach towards training. And also, finally, learning from partners and other universities and sharing best practice. So I'm starting to work on a partnership in the East Midlands with some other universities now, of people that do similar roles to me, and I find it really, really helpful to talk to them, just to find out what they do and how they do things, and what training they do, and who does it, and how they operate, because it just gives me ideas of how I could do things differently, or how I could change, or or tell them how we do things so they can learn from me. So there's a real nice opportunity to try and share. So that's something I really would strongly recommend for anybody, to be honest. And finally, I just wanted to mention, we're in the process of developing what's called our academic development framework. I can't share it with you at this point because it's still in development. What it does is it's a big chart of academic career levels, and it goes all the way from postdoctoral all the way up to professor, and it has the skills and experience and expertise that each career level should have and should develop in order to progress to the next level across research, teaching, enterprise and leadership skills. And that's been really helpful in terms of helping organisational development figure out what training they need to offer in order to enable academics to progress up that career trajectory. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's a really important thing to think about. We often, as I'm not an academic, and we often just don't really think about academic career development when we're based centrally. We just kind of help them the best way we can. But actually, this is really kind of put it on paper what's needed at each level and what expertise is needed at each level. And it's really a helpful framework to then hang training and development around. It's a very time-consuming project, and I think it's taken a while, but it's been considered very well by the academic community. They like it. It gives them really clear guidance as to what they need to do next to progress. So it has been really useful. So I will be able to share this with you, Gogo, when we have it properly finalised, and hopefully it'll be useful for you as well. So that was just what I wanted to finish with.